today we have the honor to host Mr. Dror CEO of Redhill Biopharma. If we take a look at this company here, technically speaking, it's in a nice technical pattern. I'm a buyer on that company at 16.51, but Mr. Benacher is with us to tell you why his company should represent your potential next investment. So Mr. Benacher, thank you for coming by.
Thank you, good to be back.
Excellent. So let's talk about the recent announcement you made about the Bikinda marketing application that you received. Can you tell us what are going to be the short-term catalysts that this application, the marketing application that you have for Bikinda, will have on your company, and what other catalysts in the short term that we could see for Redhill Biopharma that could propel maybe your company higher?
Sure. So, Christian, as we discussed, I believe, last September with you and the audience, basically, Redhill is differentiated in a number of ways. And indeed, the first point is what you pointed out to, which is that we have already filed marketing applications, one of which is Bikinda. Bikinda is an oral drug for the treatment of nausea and vomiting. We have filed a marketing application in Europe in oncology support, meaning for chemotherapy and radiotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting in cancer patients. The marketing application has been filed and accepted, which means that sometimes during the second half of this year, we should get regulatory feedback, including potential approval. In addition, we have filed two more marketing applications, both in the US and Europe, with a drug called Rizaport, which we're actually developing together with a Montreal-based company, Intelgenix. This is a migraine drug, again, an orally administered drug. So total, we filed already 3 marketing applications, which are making their way through the regulatory process towards hopefully approval both in the US and Europe. So that's one type of milestone or potential catalyst, as you call it rightly. In addition, currently we have 3 phase 3 studies running in parallel in the United States, also in Canada, with 3 very promising and big drugs, including 2 that are potential blockbusters. All of them are in the gastrointestinal disease space, and 2 of them, interestingly, answering your question, read out this year. The first of them, the first phase 3 top-line data that we are going to generate is planned for the second quarter of this year, so next quarter. And we are very excited about it because it's a drug, RHB-105, again, orally administered. Actually, I have it here. I can show it to your viewers. This is a drug that is aimed to eradicate a bacteria called H. pylori. H. pylori, for those who do not know, is the #1 cause of ulcers and the #1 cause of gastric cancer. And it's extremely prevalent worldwide. In the United States, about 40%, 40, of the population is infected with H. pylori at some point during their lifetime. And worldwide, we're estimating roughly 2/3 of the world population infected with H. pylori. So we're talking potentially about a huge market that's an acute, big-scale healthcare problem worldwide. Then later in the year, we have another set of phase 3 data results with Bikinda that you mentioned earlier, but for the treatment of gastroenteritis. Gastroenteritis is an inflammation of the GI tract that results from typically food infections. There's hundreds of millions of cases a year in the US alone, thousands of death cases, unfortunately many children. We are in the midst of a phase 3 study that is going to read out in the second half of 2015. Just to, please, go ahead.
Yeah. So now to get into your points, because you mentioned a lot of information here, I want to actually get some clarification on some of them. You mentioned that at the end of this year, you will expect some phase 3 data concerning some of your drugs. But I know that your strategies, your growth strategies, that yes, you wanted to actually have a partnership when you're bringing those drugs into a later stage. For instance, you have Salix Pharmaceutical as one of your partner, but you were saying that you do not close the possibility of actually developing, bringing those drugs into marketing and sales by doing it yourself? Because financially speaking, you guys were really strong in your last interview, according to what you told us. So if ever, let's do some scenarios. If ever those drugs in 2015 play out to have positive data, you get the approval, which avenue would you favor? Would it mostly be through potential partners like Salix, for instance, or will you feel that you have enough resources to bring them into the market yourself?
So that's indeed a very interesting and challenging strategic question. We are expecting phase 3 data from RHB-105 for the eradication of H. pylori in the second quarter. So it's pretty much around the corner. Another phase 3 data set is in the second half. As a company, we are very well positioned for 2015, which allows us to weigh pretty much all options. We are backed by some of the world's strongest healthcare investors, including OrbiMed, an $11 billion healthcare dedicated fund out of the US. We already have, as you rightly mentioned, a deal with an industry player, Salix Pharmaceuticals, for another drug that we did not mention yet, RHB-106. We do have a strong balance sheet with just under $30 million in the end of Q3, the third quarter 2014. We have all the options in front of us. We could either co-promote, we could out-license, we could even go it alone under certain scenarios, provided we keep this relatively low risk profile while maintaining the potential upside.
Okay. Now let's talk about two disease that you're actually targeting, the Crohn disease and the recently early stage Ebola virus treatment. First of all, can you update us how does the RHB-104 phase 3 data is doing, and what about the Ebola? Why are you actually shifting into it to cure Ebola? Is it like isn't it a shift on your strategy? Because you guys were mostly concentrated in a gastrointestinal disease, right?
Absolutely. RHB-104 first. RHB-104, I'm glad you mentioned it, is a capsule. Again, I have it here for those that are interested in taking a look. It's a capsule for the treatment of Crohn's disease. Now, Crohn's disease is one of the worst gastrointestinal diseases. It's a terrible inflammation of the GI tract. It causes many nasty things, be it abdominal pain and constipation, diarrhea. Moderate to severe and severe Crohn's patients are suffering terribly. Most of them reach at some point a surgery of removals of parts or all of the colon. And there's even death as a result of complications. So RHB-104, the drug I just showed you, is a potential paradigm shift in the treatment of Crohn's disease, because existing treatments are focused on symptoms only. They do not have a good safety profile, and in addition, they're extremely expensive. They're selling for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. Our drug has a very different approach in that we are targeting what we believe is the underlying cause of Crohn's disease, a specific bacteria, let's call it MAP, which is a difficult one to detect and treat. We believe we can do it successfully. We are currently in a phase 3 study in the US. It's a large study, in Canada as well. It's a large study, but if we are right and if we get it right, it's a paradigm shift in the whole treatment. It's a revolution. Now, timing-wise, we have not announced when we are going to complete the study yet. We intend to announce when we intend to complete the study around the second quarter of this year. And the reason is that we want to have sufficient visibility how recruitment is going before we inform the market with something that we can stand behind. Now, Ebola.
Yeah, Ebola. Yes.
Ebola indeed is... you asked about Ebola and why are we developing something for Ebola. Whereas we are focused on GI diseases. Well, Ebola is an acute problem right now. There's no authorized licensed treatment for Ebola. As you know, there's some vaccines that are being developed. And we believe that we have something that may be promising. It's early stage, so I wouldn't want to overplay it, overstate it. Early stage. However, we did announce that we do have a collaboration with the U.S. government agency over the research for Ebola.
Okay.
And one needs to remember also that Ebola treatment, because there's none, can get through the regulatory approval process relatively quickly with a lot of incentives from regulators.
Okay. Now let's talk about money, because of course you guys have good news in terms of your products. What happened recently with the phase 3 studies? You're currently running 3 phase 3 studies. Are you expecting results this year? But financially speaking, where you guys stand out right now? Are you guys as financially strong as last year, or are you guys are going to spend more money on R&D? Because recently we know you've actually acquired a technology from the University of Minnesota. So do you expect to have an increase in your R&D budget this year? And how much in terms of percentage is going to be? How much cash do you have? Give us an update on that, please, Mr. Ben-Asher.
Thank you. It's indeed the fundamental question for any biotech company, as your viewers and listeners know. Redhill is in a very unique situation in this respect. I know of very few companies, biotech companies our size, that have the ability with their existing resources to bring several products all the way to the market, even assuming no additional commercialization deals. And indeed, we are working on additional commercialization deals. We announced it. So we are in a very good position in this respect. Now, if and when we go out there and secure additional financing, we are a public company, we will be announcing it, and we'll also be announcing the use of proceeds. We currently have 8 products, all of them late clinical stage, under development, multiple shots on goal, and that indeed requires significant financing. That said, we have sufficient funding right now, should we wish, to bring several of our products all the way to the market without an additional financing.
Okay. Now, we only have 10 seconds, but before that, I just want to tell people that there's a document sharing button that you can download the corporate presentation of Redhill Biopharma. So it's there, you'll be able to click on it. But now we only have 10 seconds before the show ends, Mr. Ben-Asher, but I want your comments on this key question here. For a viewer who has been looking at your interview in the last year, and I was looking at your interview again and was not convinced. In 10 seconds, what would you tell him 3 elements that you think are specific to Redhill Biopharma that differentiate them from the competition, and why those elements should actually make him consider your company as a potential next investment? 3 things in 10 seconds.
So I cannot recommend an investment, of course, but I can say that we are known as a company that does what it says and focus on execution, which is evident from where we are in our pipeline, the kind of investors we have, and the partnership we have in place.
Excellent. So Mr. Ben-Asher, thank you for actually coming by to give us that interview live from Israel. Next time we hope to have you here in Montreal so we can actually do an interview live on our studios. So thanks again for this insight, and we definitely look forward to hear back from you.
Thank you, Christian. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.